The changes that you make to make your software better can make a huge difference in the lives of the people who use it. Windows 7 is faster and more responsive than Windows 10. Yes, I know it's difficult to believe this. I know that it's hard to believe that Windows 7 could possibly be any faster than Windows 10, given that Windows 7 is old. Windows 7 is out of date. Windows 7 is end of life. Windows 7 is unsupported. Windows 7 is archaic. Windows 7 came out in 2009. And as of the recording of this video, it's the second half of 2020. You're talking about an 11-year-old system, dude. Why are you doing that? Why are you acting like this 11-year-old system could possibly be better than Windows 10, which came out in 2015 and technically gets a new version released every half a year? Well, I'll tell you. I do a lot of things with keyboard shortcuts. I use a lot of different programs, such as video editors, audio editors, video compressors, a lot of different programs. And here's the thing about Windows 7. No matter how you cut it, whenever you sit in front of Windows 7 and you use a keyboard shortcut to, say, do an operation in File Explorer, or Windows Explorer as it was called back in the days of Windows 7, no matter how you cut it, it's faster. It responds to your keystrokes faster. It generally keeps up better. If I try to connect to a network drive, or more appropriately, any network share, any server, any computer over the network, Windows 7, just try to get to the computer, comes up immediately. Windows 10? Good luck. Windows 10 sits there, and sits there, and sits there, and sits there, and eventually connects to the computer. Now, I've done all the advanced tweaks that I can think of. DHCP node type equals 8 under NetBT and the services. You know, all the classic stuff that network administrators picked up in the 2000s to try and compensate for stupid network problems. But here's the deal. I have dealt with this firsthand. It's so unfortunate because every time I switch over to the computer I'm literally sitting in front of as I talk about this, I feel bad. I really just feel like I've somehow been cheated. Like Windows 7 was stolen from me. Like it hurts a little, frankly, because I'm sitting in front of a machine that has a third generation Intel Core i5. It's a desktop, and it's like 7 years old. At least the motherboard and processor at least 7 years old. But when I compare them to the brand new Ryzen 7 3700X that I just built that hasn't even been on my bench for 2 weeks, unfortunately, the truth is, the i5 still feels faster. It's insane. It sounds crazy, but the i5 feels faster. Whenever I hit the start button, the menu pops immediately. Whenever I type something, it happens immediately. Whenever I hit a keyboard shortcut, like I need to make a new folder, and I go Alt FWF to make a new folder, it's immediate. Whereas if I do it on Windows 10 and I do the equivalent Alt HN, which is home and new folder, goes through that new ribbon system that they introduced into Explorer in Windows 8. Oh my God, it's so slow. You literally watch the ribbon appear, then the hotkey appear, then the other hotkey appear, then it goes away, and then it creates the folder. It takes several seconds between when you bang the keystrokes and when you finish seeing them go through and the new folder appear. Sometimes for network drives and for network shares, it takes even longer. Must be related to that other thing. Anyway, it doesn't matter. The point is that this Windows 7 machine is so snappy compared to the Windows 10 machine, even though the Windows 10 machine has a really fast solid-state drive, and everything about it blows the i5 way out of the water. In Handbrake, it's chewing through videos at 170 frames a second that the i5 is cranking through at 30. This is no slouch, but it still feels slower. It feels like everything is being dragged backwards while it tries to move forwards. And I don't know how to explain it, because part of the problem is that the speed of a computer is not something that's easily benchmarked. Sure, if you want hard numbers on how quickly a processor can perform a number of operations, that's one thing, but what people say is the speed of a computer. That's hard to benchmark. perception of performance is not the same thing as the raw numbers your CPU can process, or the memory bandwidth. None of those numbers directly measure how fast the computer feels. For the same reason, a program could technically do certain things slower. Let's say that the Firefox JavaScript engine is slower at processing JavaScript than the JavaScript engine in Chrome. But if Firefox performs better as far as the user's perception, how much of a problem is it really that it's slower? Does it really matter? That's the thing, is that you can have a superior solution, at least on some technical metric, but if that solution doesn't feel fast to the user, if people still feel like everything is lagging and slow, then have you really built a product that performs? Or have you built something that looks good on paper, but in practice doesn't live up to the expectations of the user that the whole thing was built for in the first place? And that's the problem with all these modern operating systems now. Hardware continues to get better and better. It's exploding in performance. It's exploding in capability. But as it gets better, the software just continues getting worse. And the software getting worse is outpacing the hardware getting better. I have to have a Ryzen 7 3700X paired up with a PCI Express solid-state drive that has a heatsink because it's so fast, just to be able to keep up perceptually with a Core i5 3470 from 7 years ago running Windows 7. Frankly, I feel like that's a little embarrassing. I think that software developers as a whole should feel a little ashamed. You all, whether you meant to or not, are responsible for this happening. And I know why it happens. I understand. The boss says we have a deadline. We need to get this out by X date. No, don't worry about making all the things faster. We can bug fix it later. And of course, the bug fixes never come. No one ever revisits and refactors that code snippet because you know what? In 3 years, the processors will be faster anyway. The RAM will be higher anyway. So who cares? Who cares about memory usage? Who cares about processor consumption? All that matters is that we get it out there and it's good enough that the users don't complain enough. They don't complain enough, or they don't complain very much. All that matters is that it's out there and they get used to it. It's the classic frog boiling in the frying pan. You don't turn the heat up quickly, you turn it up slowly so the frog doesn't realize it's being boiled alive. Well, the same thing is happening with computers and software. We have all of this software. We have these amazing technical ecosystems that are insanely complex, with millions of moving parts in software and hardware, millions, billions even, of possible combinations of things. And we've gotten them all working together nicely, but somewhere along the way, we've lost the elegance of making good software. Now all that matters is software that's good enough that the users won't complain too much. Software that's good enough to get it out there under the user's nose, and hopefully we won't have to do any extra work to actually make the software decent. It's a real shame, and I wish that something would change. Sadly, I don't think that that's the way things are going to go. I've looked into it, and the problem is with languages that allow rapid prototyping becoming yet more common, and with the distribution of the Electron framework being so widespread, and solving a lot of problems admittedly, but still, the simple fact that all of these memory hogging, CPU garbage programming systems distributing everywhere. They're everywhere. See, the beauty of Electron is that it's a web server and web client packaged together. And it basically means you can write the same program for your web server and for your Windows, your Mac, iOS, Android, it doesn't matter. You can distribute all of that stuff all over the place with minor changes just to compile or build for that platform, because in the end, it's all just a web page running on an embedded web server and being presented to the person who downloaded the app using an embedded web client. Everything is literally a web server and client with the Electron framework. But you're talking about writing an application that's just a fancy web page. And it's one thing if people are interacting with a website where they have no control over what's on your server. But on their computers, it's insane. And it's created this mess where every program you download, be it Skype or Discord, it doesn't matter. There are so many programs that use Electron as their framework So every single one of those programs runs a web server and a web browser under the hood, a separate instance. You want to talk about bloat, there it is. Second tier stuff, Python, Java. These things are not as fast as C, all these low-level languages, but I understand why they're there. The problem is people will abuse the features of these nicer, newer languages and just never refactor anything. They just won't put in the work to make things better. Because why should they? The boss is down their throat. If you wonder why it is that computers are so amazingly fast, and yet nothing seems to get faster, there's your answer. If you get really bored, go around YouTube, run searches like Windows 98 on an Intel Core i7, look it up. They don't run very well because obviously, it's Windows 98. It's long since died. But if you can get Windows 95 or 98 or Millennium Edition to boot at all on a relatively new system, you'll be able to see something that will blow your mind away. Because these ancient operating systems that some not quite as ancient computers can still kind of sort of run, they boot up in no time, especially on a solid state drive. It's insane. You wouldn't believe it. It's like it's up in a flash. That's been lost. No one tunes software like that anymore. No one takes pride in that. No one cares about that. You know what? That customer with 8 gigs, they're going to upgrade to a computer with 16 gigs within the next 3 years. So no, we can make our software even crappier. We can continue to use inefficient data structures. Yeah, it's a sad state of affairs. And I wish that something would change, but I don't know how to exact that kind of change. It has to happen at the grassroots level. You have to do something about it. You people writing the code, you have to do something about it. You're the ones who have to refactor the stuff. And here's the thing. If the code is made to run better, it benefits us all, because that means that your software is better software. The changes that you make to make your software better can make a huge difference in the lives of the people who use it. You affect countless lives by making your software less sucky, by making it come up a few seconds faster, by taking that half a second delay out of the process between hitting send and the thing rendering in the send window. Those little things add up to a massive difference in lives of other people. So while you might be interested in social causes, while you might be interested in corporate social responsibility, my fellow programmers, have you ever looked inside and considered cleaning your own house? Because other people visit it. That's my call to action for you, and I hope that it's touched you in your heart. And if you're not a programmer, well, Windows 10 sucks. But it's the best thing we have as far as, I don't want to get into that discussion, so I'm just going to stop. Thanks you all for listening. Good night. Or morning if you're in some weird time zone where all the upside down people in Australia live. Bye!